took the screen.
My name again. I'm coming, I'm sorry.
Good evening and welcome to the special meeting of the Finance and Claims Committee of the Normal Common Council for today, Thursday, February 23rd, beginning at 9:05 p.m. First thing, we will call the roll of the Finance and Claims Committee members. Council Member Jen McMurray.
Present.
Council Member Nora Nadelsky Eichner.
Present.
Councilmember Diana Revelous.
Here.
Councilmember John Kites.
Here.
Councilmember Ed Camacho.
I'm here.
Councilmember Brian Meek. Councilmember Greg Burnett is present. We have a quorum. Moving on to the first item on the agenda for the special meeting. We have a resolution that reads as follows, requesting a special capital appropriation in the amount of $489,225 to increase the appropriation to fund for the fire department to purchase 2 fire engines, pumper trucks, account number noted, apparatus replacement. The $489,225 of bonds or notes of the city shall be issued in accordance with the provisions and terms set forth in the original bond resolutions, but authorize the issuance of bonds or notes of the city for project number as noted, apparatus replacement. And item 4, which goes along with item 3, the resolution reads as follows: deauthorize in the amount of $489,225 of authorized but unissued bonds from the police communication console account as noted to purchase 2 fire engine pumper trucks. Do we have a motion on these 2 resolutions? Councilmember Jen McMurray, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this meeting is not streaming right now.
Excuse me?
The meeting is not streaming right now.
It's live on YouTube, but it looks like, I don't know if the public can get it. We're checking right now. Yeah. Oh. It looks like the wrong link is out there.
There were 2 links and then there was only 1 link, and maybe they could use the back to the original meeting. The other meeting was moved this morning, I believe.
There are people, there are participants though.
There are 12 attendees. Yeah. Yeah, there are 12 people on.
Okay.
Can we continue?
That's fine. Okay. Okay. So. Okay. Yeah. So you can't see nobody. They can only hear.
They can hear it.
She's gonna try and type them, but hey, Jeff. I can't.
Excuse me, she's talking.
What's happening is the link on the website. I don't know how these other people are in, but the link on the City of Norwalk website that goes to this meeting, to the 7:30 meeting. When you click on it, it brings you to some other. Bring you to this. Somehow there are 12 other people that in the public that are on this meetings.
Because it's no longer said there is a link expires.
were all in it, so it didn't expire, but that has happened in the past. Meeting doesn't start by a certain time. The link that may be the reason that some people are in and others no longer in.
Can we continue the meeting?
Just let them know they can view it on YouTube. Because there is no public participation. So if they go to our YouTube channel, then we can view it.
Can we make that announcement? That if people go on YouTube, they can follow us?
Yeah. I should have done it.
Yes, for those of the public, if anyone's having trouble getting in, just go to the YouTube link and you'll be able to view the entire meeting. Thank you.
Just to confirm, it is an expiration. I put in the webinar ID directly.
Oh, that's.
All right, we'll read it out of the public, please.
So can we continue?
Yes.
Thank you.
Nora has her hand.
So we have a motion on the floor at this time. And that was moved. And I will now call for the question. All those in favor of the two resolutions that was read for the fire department, either raise your hand virtually or indicate by a sign of aye.
Aye.
Yeah,
All those opposed have the same right. Any abstentions? The motion passed. Thank you. Moving on to item 5 on the special meeting agenda, which is the fiscal year 2023-2024 recommended operating budget and cap review, discussion and recommendation to the Common Council. And we have our Chief Financial Officer, Henry Dakowitz, that will provide an update to us on the operating budget.
Thank you, Chairman. As you're all aware, I presented the mayor's recommended operating budget about 2 weeks ago. And the sequence of events is that we asked the Finance Committee to review that budget. And based on what Mr. Burnett has explained to me, to then vote to make a recommendation to the full Common Council on setting a cap. The legal requirement from our charter is that the full Common Council votes and establishes a cap, a ceiling on expenditures. It then goes to the Board of Estimate and Taxation. The Board of Estimate and Taxation conducts meetings with each of the departments. It has a public hearing. I believe the council also conducts a public hearing. And the Board of Estimate and Taxation can shift monies around as long as they stay under the cap. If they exceed the cap, it goes back to the council and requires, I believe, a 2/3 majority vote to increase the cap. If they do not exceed the cap, then it just moves forward. And based on how they reallocate the funds, it would eventually go to the BET for the final approval of mill rates and average tax bills. We have had a situation which has occurred in the most recent years as well, where the assessor has requested, normally the grand list, which is set with values as of October 1st of last year, of 2022. The grand list normally is required to be submitted to the state by January 31st. The assessor requested and was granted approval for a 1-month delay. And the new requirement currently is that he submit the grand list as of February 28th. As I'm sure most of you are aware, we have been going through an upgrade of our Munis ERP system. We are working with different computer systems for our tax assessor and collector. And because of some glitches, the assessor is being very cautious in checking and double checking all of the numbers to make sure everything is included, nothing is dropped, and that all of those items have the proper values to the best of his knowledge. Since yesterday, I have worked with the assessor and I have had 3 sets of values given to me. But as of 3 o'clock this afternoon, he said he was still not comfortable in releasing those numbers. The process for setting the mill rates is as follows. We start with what we call above the line calculations, which is a line by line item of each department. And we started with pro forma values, what the departments requested. The budget director and I meet with each department to discuss their request versus our pro forma number. We sit with the mayor. The mayor makes the final determination on the mayor recommended budget numbers, which is what was presented 2 weeks ago. After we have those line items by department, we then make some other calculations. There are additions to those numbers. For example, we grant concessions to veterans and seniors. So because we grant them concessions and we don't receive the taxes that we would normally expect them to pay, we have to increase the amount which we have to collect when we set tax rates. We also set up an allowance for doubtful accounts for people who won't pay. It's very small. It's 1.4%. We expect to collect 98.6% of the bills we send out. But again, that's an amount we do not expect to collect. So now when we set our rates to collect taxes, we have to increase the amount which we must collect. We call that the gross tax levy. We then make adjustments for deductions or revenue. So we have state funding grants. We have fees that we get from various departments. And we also consider any other revenue sources for the budget. In the last several years, we used some funds from ARPA, the federal grant program, and we usually consider drawing down our rainy day funds. This year, in the mayor's recommended budget, we increased the amount of rainy day fund drawdown from last year's budgeted 4 million to this recommended amount of $6 million. After we take all of those revenue amounts and reduce the amount of taxes we need because those offset the costs, we then come up with the net tax levy. That is the amount of money we must set the mill rates for so that we collect the amount of money that we need to fund the operation. By charter, we're supposed to have a balanced budget. The way we set the mill rates is as follows. Step 1, we carve out the grand list for motor vehicles. Motor vehicles are charged a higher mill rate than the mill rate for real estate taxes and personal property of business taxes. So we carve out the assessed value, the grand list for the motor vehicles, and we multiply that by the mill rate, which is 30 something. And we say, okay, here's the amount of money we expect to collect based on those motor vehicle taxes. We subtract that from the net tax levy, and the difference is the amount we must collect in real estate and personal property taxes. Now, if it was straightforward, we could just take the grand list for the 6 taxing districts and divide. Here's the net amount we must raise divided by the assessed value, and it gives us the citywide mill rate. And using a median number for the 4th taxing district, we can then multiply by that house value and we can get an average tax bill citywide. However, as you're all aware, we issue tax bills based on districts. The complicating feature is that not all 6 districts get all the different services the city provides. The fire services are only provided to districts 1 through 5. District 6 provides its own fire services. So we carve out the expenses to deliver fire services and then allocate that only to districts 1 through 5. We then look at trash pickup, which again is only received by districts 1 through 4. We then look at street lighting, which is only provided to 2 districts. After we make those changes, so we take the certain amount for each of those line items, and we allocate it only to the districts that receive those services. So we've deducted the auto revenue, and we've now deducted fire, trash, and lighting. We now take the net amount of taxes that we must receive and divide it through the assessed value, the grand list, for all 6 taxing districts. And that's what we call our core mill rate. So the 6th taxing district gets that core mill rate plus a mill rate issued by the 6th taxing district to provide for their services. I am given that number by their controller. We collect it on our bills and then transmit those funds back to the 6 taxing districts. For the other districts, they each get a core plus whatever additional services they get. And that's how we get the mill rates for each district. The 1st, 2nd, and 3rd districts all get the same services, so those mill rates are all the same. So once we have the mill rates, we then multiply it by the median assessed value in each district, and that's how we get the average tax bill. Because the median home value in each district differs, the average tax bill in each district differs. So there's a layer of complication. But the calculations to set the amount of expenditures is what I would call above the line, before we even touch all the assessed values. In order to get the mill rate and average tax bill for each of the districts, we need the assessed values. So normally, the assessor provides the grand list for the city, district by district, including the 10th district for the autos. I take those numbers and I use them through our models to define the mill rates and average tax bills. What we did 2 weeks ago was based on preliminary projections from the assessor. However, because of the problems with the computers and because he got an extension to February 28th, those numbers were not ready in time to provide all of you the packages with the revised numbers. You have preliminary numbers and they will change, but we're just not sure where they're going to end up. So as soon as he is comfortable with the numbers and signs off, I will receive them and work them through our models to update the mill rates and average tax bills that we've calculated before and provided previously. And once I check to make sure we haven't made any errors in our calculations, we will provide them to everyone on the council, to everyone on the BET, as an updated mayor's recommended budget. Apologize for the delays, but it just was not avoidable.
I have a question. I have a question.
Let me,
Sure.
yes, Councilmember Jen McMurray, but before I go to Jen, Mr. Dakowitz, when are we anticipating that the update will be available?
I hesitate to make predictions.
Just a estimate, not holding you to it.
The target we're looking at, we know that the council meets Tuesday evening.
Correct.
Our new target is to make sure it's done by Monday night, to give you at least some time to review the numbers. We can get them before the weekend. We are working diligently to try to do that. We want to give you good, accurate numbers and enough time to analyze them and make due deliberation.
Thank you. Councilmember Jen McMurray.
That was my question, but my comment is this is such an important decision for us to make. I don't think that it is fair to vote on something this magnanimous without that information. Tonight or Tuesday. I'm sorry. I will be voting no this evening on this budget.
With that, and I agree with you completely, that we should table the approval of the operating budget cap for tonight's special meeting and table it until the council meeting on Tuesday, February 28th. And between now and February 28th, we're anticipating receiving the additional update on the grand list. So that's a motion to table. Excuse me, there's a motion to table on the floor right now. So with that, and I'll take comments from the members of the council that are not on the finance committee, but right now there's a motion to table this decision until on the recommended operating budget cap until Tuesday. All those in favor of the motion to table, please show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed have the same right. Any abstentions? The motion to table has passed, and now we have questions from Councilmember Nicole Ayers and then Councilmember David Hoover.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just need to express my displeasure with, yet again, we are not giving things in a timely manner from the finance department. I can appreciate a computer glitch. I could appreciate being cautious, but at this point, we are setting a pattern. Because if my memory serves me correct, and I took my Flintstones vitamins this morning, this happened last year. That again, we have to wait. And the book that we have in front of us is a 345-page document. And I appreciate the chair for tabling it, but some of us take this job extremely serious. We have full-time jobs, we are parents, and guess what? We have lives. And we come here because we are eager to serve, but yet again, we are not giving the right information in a timely manner by the finance department. And this is a trend that keeps happening over and over again. And I know my colleagues are probably going to get me in the parking lot, but that's okay. This has to stop. We cannot continue to do business like this. It does not benefit us. It does not benefit the finance department, and it definitely does not benefit the citizens we decide to represent. And I'm saying right now, we better change it, because I can't take too much more of this, and we really do not deserve this. I'm extremely irritated that this is how we are doing business here in the city of Norwalk. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember David Hooverman, and then I see Mr. Dackwitz has his hand raised.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Councilperson Ayers, for what you just said. I couldn't agree with you more. Since we keep pushing things down the road, what happens if we don't have these numbers on Monday? We aren't able to have a substantive discussion about this, to vote on this on Tuesday. What happens in front of the full council at this point? What's the date that we're supposed to set?
Excuse me, by charter, the date that the council needs to set the operating budget cap is March 7th.
March 7th.
March 7th. So if need be, in response to your question, we would have to call a special meeting of the Common Council on or before March 7th, so we can approve the operating budget cap, so it can move forward to the
Just making
BOT.
the assumption that we have the numbers that we need by then, which seems to continue to happen.
Making that assumption.
Thank you.
Mr. Dakowitz.
Thank you. I think the problem here was the ambitious calendar. I think March 7th, I will instruct my team that next year, March 7th is when we set the Common Council establishment of the cap. And if we could do a finance committee before that, where you can make a recommendation, that's fine. We have, the assessor has asked for an extension for the last 3 years to February 28th. I think it's unfair to hold him to a deadline of February 23rd when he had a legal extension granted to him by the state, and the administration knew about this. So I think it's an unfair potshot claiming that we don't deliver our numbers on time. We delivered that 360-page book on February 7th when I addressed the Finance Committee, when the numbers changed on us 5 hours before the meeting. My team changed all the numbers. We changed our slideshow. We presented both to the Finance Committee on the 7th and on the BET and Council the next week, Monday and Tuesday. It's important for accuracy. We have done our jobs. The calendar was wrong. The calendar should be March 7th, not February 23rd and not February 28th. I think Mr. Ford is doing yeoman work with a very tough situation. I don't want to go into the details about where he is, but the vast majority of the values have already been established. When you get two differing numbers and you're not sure why, and you're not sure which number or a third is the accurate number, as a professional, you must hold the presses, discover the errors, and figure out what the right numbers are. Rushing to give you numbers tonight before they are accurate and then possibly change was irresponsible, and I was the one who made the decision to not give you numbers tonight. He has a deadline of February 28th. Working with Mr. Ford for 3.5 years, he has never missed a deadline. The problem is the calendar, and I'm sorry you perceive that we consistently do not give you numbers on time.
I see Councilmember Lisa Shanahan's hand raised.
So I am not a member of the committee, but I had a question, and maybe more it's a comment. You know, maybe it is a calendar issue. My bigger concern is that we're right and that we don't, we rush to numbers and we don't really know the accuracy of them. I feel uncomfortable if we have only 24 hours to digest this information and make sure that there's, no rushing involved and mistakes due to rushing. I'm a little concerned about taking this straight to council without some type of vetting beforehand. Just speaking as one council member, and I would have that concern on Tuesday night.
Here.
Okay, at this point, for tonight's meeting, we've tabled the approval of the recommendation of the operating budget cap till the council meeting on Tuesday, February 28th. There being no further business of the special meeting, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Those in favor show by the sign of raising your hand or verbally
Aye.
acknowledging. Those opposed have the same right. Any abstentions? The motion passed. We're adjourned for this evening. Thank you, and thank you for the long public hearing, but a lot of great comments were made, and we will definitely take those into consideration. Thank you.
Good night.